You know, America, I was watching a clip. What was it, Bill Maher, Mr. Producer, that I was watching? And I don't do that a lot. I'm not a clip guy, you know. But I happened upon something. This young lady was on Bill Maher debating him and others. I said, wow, she's smart. She's good. She knows how to engage these people. So we looked into it a little bit. Her name is Batya Ungar-Sargon. She has a fantastic new book coming out, Second Class, How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. It's out next Tuesday. Of course, we will post it on all of our social sites. How are you?
Well, Mr. Levin, I feel like I've won the jackpot being here with you because I'm such a fan of yours. And also, as you well know, it's known in the industry that your audience is really smart and that they actually still read books. So I'm like totally thrilled to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, first of all, call me Mark. And secondly, we're excited to have you. And I want America out there to understand how important this book is that you've written. I mean, and when I'm telling you, there's very few people who I watch from time to time, I don't watch a lot, on TV who are impressive. You're very impressive. So tell us why you decided to write this book and tell us about your book. I'm going to give you the floor.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so, so much. I wrote this book because we're constantly told this canard that America is a white supremacist nation, that we're deeply divided, that we've never been so divided since the Civil War. And it's simply nonsense. I mean, the vast majority of Americans, 70% of Americans agree on 70% of the issues. All of the things that used to divide us have evaporated. There's so much unity in this nation, and I cannot stand to see these millionaire hosts of TV shows lecturing the working class, sneering at the working class from their perch of unbelievable privilege. And so I wrote this book because I felt that the working class had been silenced and, honestly, before Trump, betrayed by both parties and both sides, the elites of both sides. And I wanted to get their voices back out there. I wanted to know, who is the American working class, and do they still have a fair shot at the American dream? And if not, how do we widen the avenue to the American dream for working class Americans? And so I traveled the country for a year. I interviewed working class Americans in all industries, of all races, religious persuasions, family setups. And what I found was unbelievable unity on the most important issues, on policy issues, and they're simply being ignored. And so I wrote this book to give them a voice. That's what I did.
So you travel the country for a year. You're talking to people. You're observing. Reminds me of Alexis de Tocqueville, quite frankly. And you're taking in what's going on out there, and what you are reporting is, wait a minute, we're still Americans. 70% of us agree on 70% of the issue, and these elites, this ruling class and the media and so on, are trying to rip us to shreds by imposing their own views upon us, correct?
Correct.
And also, my question is, and in your book, no, folks, I haven't had a chance to read it, but I got to get the book, Mr. Producer. My question to you is this. So you hear a lot of people when you were walking around and so forth and checking out the country, and I get people coming up to me at the diner and so forth. Even though we may agree on so many things, they're scared to death about what's happening to the country, right?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Yeah. People feel very, very worried about the direction the country is going in, and they feel like their voices are not being heard, and they are right. And it's a travesty, not only because it's anti-democratic, right? Like, you know, you have 70% of the country who wants something and they can't get it, right? Like, that's not how a democracy is supposed to work. It's anti-democratic, but it's also, they are unbelievably tolerant people with an unbelievably sharp and smart sense of what is right for them and for their children. And everything the elites are doing is terrible and worse than what they would do if they were in power. And that's what's so infuriating about it, is you have these leftist democratic elites who are waging class warfare on the working class. The entire democratic agenda is an upward transfer of wealth from the working class to the over-credentialed college elites. And they just get away with this plunder of the middle class, which of course they do, as you cover again and again on your show so eloquently, in the name of all of these highfalutin ideals, which is just really an alibi for betraying their own neighbors.
And by the way, I think I need to bring you on TV, because I saw you on TV. You're not only passionate, you're very intelligent. And honestly, we have a farm team out there, we who believe in liberty in this country. And I try to do what I can, whether it's on radio or TV, to give them a shot, so people are out there. But I saw you engage in a way that put a big smile on my face. And I even said to Mr. Producer, who is this young lady? Don't get me wrong. It's like I live in in a cocoon, so I don't know everything that's going on out there. And I said, I need to bring, if you don't mind, I need to present her to millions of people because she's really, really good. Now, on this book, tell us a little bit about when you went around, you interviewed these people, how are the elites betraying them? They're trying to impose their own will on them. What are they doing exactly?
Let's start with the economic piece. So the Democrats used to be the party of labor, right? You used to have this dichotomy. The Democrats represented the working class, the working man, the middle class, and the Republicans used to be the party of, the Chamber of Commerce, free trade, tax cuts, trickle down, this stuff. This is all pre-Trump, right? Bill Clinton gets into office, and what does he do? He signs NAFTA into law, and suddenly we're shipping 5 million good middle-class jobs to China and Mexico to build up their middle class. That was a Democrat that did that. Just total betrayal. We used to have an economy that the biggest sector of the economy was in manufacturing. Manufacturing jobs are good-paying jobs where you can be a working-class person with a middle-class life. You can own your own home, retire in dignity, and so forth. The Democrats shipped all those jobs overseas. And then Obama showed up and said, those jobs aren't coming back. We're going to send everyone to college, right? Because college, is a great factory for producing Democrats. Mm-hmm. And then Joe Biden showed up with the final piece of the puzzle and opened the border so that all of the jobs that remained here, service industry jobs and so forth, suddenly you have 10, 12 million people flooding those industries, driving down working class wages, right? So they shipped the good jobs overseas, and then they imported an entirely new slave caste from failed socialist states to service them, the elites. It's a total upward transfer of wealth because the elites, the credentialed elites, are the consumers of low-wage immigrant labor who compete with the working class.
The book is Second Class, How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. It is out next Tuesday. I encourage you to grab your copy. We're speaking to Batya Ungar-Sargon. We have it up there on all our social sites. I want to encourage you to grab a copy. And I'm going to grab a copy tomorrow morning. I'm going to dig into this book because I hear it is absolutely fantastic. And you're listening to the author. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. Well, like you, I was born in Philadelphia.
And you got out of there. Yeah, okay.
I did get out of there, yeah. I'm an Orthodox Jew. Very, very proud. I'm sitting here thanking God for the fact that I'm on your show right now in the break.
Goodness.
And I feel so honored and lucky, and I'm sort of a little bit speechless. I'm the opinion editor at Newsweek. I hope you'll appreciate this. Every day I run what we call the daily debate. So we take the biggest question of the day and we have both sides. We have a Democrat debate a Republican because it's so rare that we see that happen in the same space. And often there's a lot of common ground. And that's really, I think I would say, like the focus of my career is finding that common ground and convincing Americans that the polarization that we see is really an elite phenomenon. It exists in the spaces where people make money and consolidate power by convincing you to hate your fellow American. But as soon as you get out of those spaces and those elite, industries, across the nation, Americans are praying next to people they disagree with politically. They are working with people who vote for the other party, and it would never occur to them to hold that against somebody.
Mm-hmm. Are the media in America today are quite dangerous, aren't they? I mean, they really are destroying the whole profession and destroying the whole concept of a free press. I mean, their agenda seems to be to advance the ideology of one side, no?
100%. In fact, my first book is called Bad News: How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy. And what I found in that book was actually that the real problem with the media is not so much that it's leftist, although it is, it's that it is extremely elitist. So, it's true, 96% of journalists who give donations to political parties donate to the Democrats. Everything you and your audience is like, hey, this seems like all the journalists are leftist. Like, you're totally right about that. But even worse than that is that they, by and large, go to very elite universities. The majority of them have a graduate degree, even though only a third of Americans have a BA. And they increasingly live amongst the powerful people who they are supposed to cover adversarially, and their children go to the same fancy private schools as the people they're supposed to be covering adversarially. So there's really been a class consolidation around those with power and those with these sort of ridiculous elite university pedigrees, and they have come to really have contempt for the average American from that position of extreme wealth and privilege. They really look down on regular people, which is, I believe, why they allowed, these, Obama, Clinton, and Biden to sell out the future of the working class, because they really, it's not just that they believe that they disagree with them. They have utter contempt for people who don't have that college degree, and they truly, in the extreme cases, and you can see this watching cable news, the leftist cable news, they truly don't believe that these people who disagree with them have the right to vote. And that's what you're seeing with the attempts to destroy Donald Trump, who really represents like the will of the people at this moment.
So there's been this transition where the Democrat Party represents the elitists, the media represent the elitists, they represent the power centers, Washington, New York, LA, I guess. And so now they're having to build their platform, their core, whatever you want to call it, their base, on really different groups of people from time to time, right? So now we have what I call the river to the sea crowd. And Joe Biden is desperately trying to get the votes of the river to the sea crowd. And he's willing to throw Israel under the bus to get it, because he just assumes I'll get 70% of the Jewish vote. It doesn't matter. Now I got to go get those other people in these battleground states. Is that kind of what's going on?
I think so, yeah. As the Democrats abandoned the working class, they started to see their new base as the college-credentialed elites, the suburban moms, like the people who have, 9 out of 10 of the richest counties in America now go for Democrats, right? There's been a complete realignment. 65% of Americans who make more than $500,000 a year now are Democrats, right? And 74% of Americans who are living in districts below the median income vote for Republicans. So there's been a complete realignment where the Democrats are now the party of the over-credentialed top 10%, 20%, and the dependent poor, right? So they're a coalition of people who don't work at the bottom and people who have very good paying jobs at the top. And then the Republicans represent the working class. And do you know what's so amazing, Mark? And I'm very curious if you agree with me about this. I think if you just look at the policy of Donald Trump, just the policy, he is the consensus candidate that Joe Biden pretended he was going to be. He really does represent where, the median American middle-class, working-class voter is on trade, on immigration, on abortion. Now he's courting the unions. He's courting black voters. He is exactly who the Democrats used to be. And that is why they have to destroy him, because he is their pro-labor past coming back to haunt them.
I think that's a great point. I think one of the first people to figure this out politically was Rick Santorum. You remember Rick Santorum?
Yeah.
Senator from Pennsylvania, and he would constantly say, we're abandoning our union people, we're abandoning the middle class, we're abandoning the blue-collar worker. And he wrote a book about this years and years ago. And what they try to do, the media, like what they're doing with Trump now, is complete distraction, They don't want to debate on the issues, on the policy differences. They don't want to get into any of that. So now we debate, lawfare. Or we debate the latest case, which I have to get into. I can't blow it off. And all the rest of it. They do not want a toe-to-toe battle of ideas on these different issues. Does that make sense?
I totally agree with that. And the reason they don't want it is because they would lose.
Right. 100%. Well, listen, you're delightful. Folks, you'll get to see her one of these days on Fox. I'm all booked up, but we'll try and get that to happen. But the book comes out Tuesday. Batya Ungar-Sargon. Yeah. I encourage you to get it. Second Class, How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. What we're going to do is I'm going to start looking at this book, and I'm going to talk about it later in the week as well, really to give it a fair shot. So I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. God bless you for this and everything you do.
And you too. God bless you too.